Something unprecedented is unfolding in Israel. Not quietly, not in secrecy, but openly, deliberately, and before the eyes of the entire world. As ancient rituals once confined to sacred space are now carried into the global spotlight. For the first time in history, Israel announces a nationwide event that feels less like a ceremony and more like a signal, raising questions that echo far beyond tradition, politics, or coincidence. What is being summoned, and why now, at a moment when the heavens themselves seem restless? Before we go deeper, take a moment to like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, subscribe to the channel, and join us as we explore layers of history, prophecy, and unsettling alignment that many sense but few fully understand. For the first time in modern history, Israel announced a nationwide religious event and chose to broadcast it openly to the entire world. This decision alone separates the moment from routine tradition. The blowing of the shofar has always existed within defined boundaries, heard by those physically present and understood by those rooted in its meaning. By turning it into a synchronized, nationally coordinated event and live streaming it beyond its borders, Israel transformed a sacred act into a public signal. What matters here is not simply the sound of the shofar, but the intention behind amplifying it. Nations do not elevate ancient rituals without purpose. This was not an unplanned gathering or a localized observance. It was structured, scheduled, and officially announced. Such organization removes ambiguity about seriousness. When a state places its authority behind an act tied to repentance, awakening, and divine attention, the act itself takes on a broader significance that extends beyond faith into historical consequence. Jerusalem's central role further sharpens the meaning. This is not a symbolic capital chosen for convenience. It is a city where actions echo differently, where gestures rarely remain contained. History shows that events centered in Jerusalem often ripple outward, interpreted, challenged, and remembered far beyond their original context. Broadcasting a ritual from this location invites global attention not accidentally, but deliberately. It ensures the moment is witnessed, recorded, and debated. Live streaming also alters the nature of the audience. The shofar is no longer directed only toward those who believe or understand. It reaches skeptics, observers, and those entirely outside the tradition. This widens the impact while narrowing plausible deniability. Once something is seen and heard by millions, it can no longer be dismissed as internal or symbolic alone. Visibility creates accountability, even when explanations remain limited. Another striking element is the choice of sound over speech. No policy statement, no theological declaration, no formal explanation accompanied the event. Instead, an ancient instrument was allowed to speak for itself. Sound bypasses argument. It does not persuade or explain. It confronts. That choice suggests that the purpose was not to convince, but to mark a moment. This is why the event feels less like a celebration and more like a threshold. It does not announce completion, but transition. It does not explain what follows, but it signals that something has already begun. When a nation revives an ancient warning instrument and places it before the world, the significance lies not in the noise itself, but in the timing, the scale, and the deliberate decision to be seen. The question left behind is simple, yet heavy. Why was this moment chosen to be heard by everyone? To understand the weight of this moment, it is necessary to separate the shofar from the idea of festivity. While it is often associated with holy days, the shofar itself was never designed to create comfort or joy. Its tone is raw, uneven, and deliberately unsettling. Unlike musical instruments meant to harmonize, the shofar disrupts. It cuts through noise rather than blending into it. That quality is essential to its purpose. It exists to awaken, not to soothe. In its historical role, the shofar functioned as a call that demanded a response. It was sounded when people were expected to stop what they were doing and reorient their attention. Whether the response was repentance, readiness, or gathering, the sound signaled that normal activity could not continue unchanged. This is why the shofar does not require explanation. Its meaning is embedded in function rather than interpretation. When it is heard, something must be acknowledged. The use of 100 blasts intensifies this demand. Repetition removes the possibility of dismissal. One sound can be ignored or misunderstood. Many cannot. Each blast reinforces urgency, pressing the listener toward awareness. This repetition does not celebrate completion. It insists on engagement. It creates pressure rather than closure. In this sense, the shofar behaves less like an announcement of joy and more like an insistence that something unresolved is now unavoidable. Another defining feature of the shofar is its direction. It is not played toward people for their approval, nor toward leaders for validation. Traditionally, it is directed upward. The sound is aimed beyond human authority, beyond political power, beyond explanation. That orientation matters. It frames the act as a summons rather than a performance. The focus is not on who hears, but on who is being addressed. When such a sound is used in a highly visible, coordinated manner, its character does not soften. It sharpens. The absence of celebratory framing leaves space for seriousness. There are no accompanying declarations of victory, no language of accomplishment. Instead, there is restraint. Restraint suggests anticipation rather than fulfillment. It implies that the moment is preparatory, not conclusive. This distinction is critical. Celebrations mark what has been achieved. Calls mark what is required. A call assumes incompletion. It signals that something remains undone, unresolved, or unfulfilled. By choosing a sound historically associated with warning and awakening, the event resists being reduced to tradition alone. It places emphasis on posture rather than outcome. In this light, the shofar becomes less about memory and more about immediacy. It does not ask listeners to look back. It presses them to look inward and forward. Whether one understands its history or not, the sound carries an instinctive demand for attention. That is why its use in this context feels deliberate. It is not an echo of the past. It is a call aimed at the present, insisting that something requires recognition before it can be ignored no longer. Long before modern instruments could measure or predict them, events in the sky were observed as markers rather than accidents. They were not read in isolation, but in sequence, noted for their timing and for the way they appeared to correspond with moments of upheaval on the ground. What makes the present moment unsettling is not a single phenomenon, but the convergence of several, arriving within a narrow window of time and commanding the attention of a large portion of the world. When celestial events become widely visible rather than hidden, they tend to shift from curiosity to signal. The recent appearance of a blood-red moon drew attention not because it was scientifically unexplained, but because of how broadly it was witnessed. When a phenomenon is seen by millions across continents, it creates a shared moment, a collective pause in which people look upward at the same sky. That shared awareness transforms the event from private observation into global experience. It becomes harder to dismiss when it is seen simultaneously by those separated by culture, belief, and geography. The sky, for a brief moment, speaks in a language understood by all: visibility. Following closely behind, The announcement of a major solar eclipse adds another layer of tension. Darkness in the middle of day disrupts natural expectation. It alters rhythm. It interrupts work, travel, and routine. Even when anticipated, it feels intrusive, as though something foreign has been inserted into the normal order of time. When such an event approaches shortly after a widely witnessed lunar phenomenon, the sequence itself begins to matter more than the individual occurrences. Patterns provoke attention where isolated events do not. What intensifies the unease is how these signs coincide with heightened awareness on the ground. Global communication ensures that these events are not merely observed, but discussed, analyzed, and replayed endlessly. The sky becomes a shared reference point, amplifying the sense that something is aligning rather than drifting randomly. The repetition of attention, the layering of anticipation, and the narrowing of time between events create a psychological weight that science alone does not account for. People begin to sense movement, even if they cannot name its direction. Throughout history, moments of transition have often been accompanied by heightened sensitivity to the heavens. Not because the sky causes change, but because it reflects it in ways that transcend human control. No nation schedules eclipses. No government commands the moon to change its color. These events unfold beyond political power, beyond borders, and beyond belief systems. Their authority lies in their inevitability. When signs above coincide with heightened tension below, the question shifts. It is no longer about whether these events are natural, but about why they are arriving together and why they are being noticed now. Alignment does not require interpretation to be felt. It announces itself through timing, sequence, and the quiet recognition that some moments carry more weight than others. Unlike signs in the sky that appear without human involvement, the matter of purification is deliberate, controlled, and deeply intentional. It does not happen by chance, and it cannot be rushed without consequence. This is what makes the renewed focus on the red heifer so unsettling. It represents preparation, not reaction. It suggests that attention has shifted from watching events unfold to actively readying conditions for what comes next. The red heifer ritual is not symbolic theater. It is procedural, exacting, and irreversible once carried out. Every detail matters, from the animal itself to the handling of its remains. Purification, in this context, is not about emotion or belief, but about eligibility. It determines who may approach sacred space and who may not. That is why discussion around rehearsals, trials, or practice ceremonies carries weight even without official confirmation. Preparation alone signals intent. You do not rehearse what you do not plan to perform. What intensifies speculation is the silence surrounding clarity. Ambiguity becomes a tool. When actions are framed as preliminary rather than final, attention is softened, concern delayed, and resistance minimized. Yet history shows that transformative moments rarely announce themselves honestly before they are complete. The distinction between rehearsal and fulfillment often collapses only after consequences are already in motion. In matters of purification, timing matters as much as completion. Being ready can be as powerful as being finished. Purification also implies proximity. One does not purify without the intention to draw near. This is not an abstract spiritual exercise. It is functional preparation tied to access. The re-emergence of this ritual signals a shift away from symbolic remembrance toward practical readiness. It suggests that something once considered distant or theoretical is now being treated as imminent enough to justify action. There is also a cost embedded in this preparation. Purification excludes as much as it enables. It defines boundaries, separates states, and establishes conditions that cannot coexist peacefully with modern ambiguity. Once purification is pursued seriously, neutrality disappears. Positions harden. Lines become visible. What was once hidden beneath tradition rises into public consequence. That is why the red heifer draws such intense attention despite its rarity. It does not demand belief from the observer. It demands acknowledgement. It represents a threshold that, once approached, changes the nature of everything around it. Whether the ritual is complete or merely prepared for, the direction is clear. Preparation itself is movement, and movement toward sacred space has never occurred in history without reverberations far beyond those who initiated it. The idea of a third temple does not exist in isolation, nor does it remain safely confined to theology or expectation. It is anchored to a specific location, one that carries layers of devotion, conflict, and unresolved claims. Unlike abstract beliefs that can coexist without friction, this expectation points to ground, stone, and space. Once attention shifts from memory to rebuilding, the question is no longer if tension will arise, but how far it will spread. The location itself makes neutrality impossible. The Temple Mount is not an empty platform waiting for purpose. It is already occupied, revered, and defended by multiple faiths, each attaching absolute meaning to the same ground. Any movement toward construction there immediately becomes a collision of identities rather than an internal religious matter. This is why discussion of a third temple carries geopolitical weight disproportionate to its physical size. The structure represents authority, legitimacy, and divine approval, all concentrated in one place. Preparation for such a project cannot remain theoretical for long. Once materials, rituals, and qualifications are considered, intention becomes visible. Even without construction, the shift in mindset alone destabilizes existing balances. Agreements, ceasefires, and political arrangements rely on the assumption that certain lines will not be crossed. The Temple Mount represents one such line. Approaching it with purpose, even indirectly, erodes the fragile consensus that holds regional order together. What makes this collision unavoidable is that no compromise can satisfy all claims simultaneously. Sacred space does not negotiate easily. One structure cannot affirm multiple, conflicting narratives at once. Any movement toward rebuilding inevitably implies displacement, denial, or erasure of another claim. That reality transforms anticipation into threat, not because of aggression, but because of inevitability. Silence becomes strategic, statements become cautious, actions become indirect. Yet beneath restraint, pressure accumulates. The third temple also represents a turning point in expectation. It shifts prophecy from distant horizon to actionable timeline. When preparation replaces waiting, the future begins to press into the present. Observers may disagree on interpretation, but few deny the consequences. History shows that Jerusalem does not absorb such movements quietly. What begins as preparation rarely remains contained. This is why the subject generates unease even without visible progress. The collision is not hypothetical. It is embedded in the geography itself. Once movement begins toward that space, reactions become predictable, even if outcomes remain unknown. The question no longer centers on belief, but on consequence. And in a city where consequence has always arrived amplified, even the smallest step forward carries the weight of something far larger than intention alone. Few phrases have been repeated more often and misunderstood more deeply than the idea that no one knows the timing of decisive events. Over time, it has become a phrase of dismissal, used to shut down discussion rather than deepen awareness. Yet when examined carefully, the phrase was never meant to erase anticipation. It was meant to define its boundaries. There is a difference between ignorance and restraint, between not knowing and not being permitted to declare. The tension lives in that gap. In ancient thought, uncertainty was not an excuse for passivity. It was a condition that demanded attentiveness. The unknown did not remove responsibility, it intensified it. When timing was hidden, patterns became essential. People watched sequences, alignments, and signals rather than dates. Awareness replaced calculation. That mindset has largely been lost in modern discussions, where certainty is demanded before attention is given. But moments of transition rarely offer certainty in advance. They offer accumulation. The idea of an appointed time without a disclosed date introduces a paradox. If the moment cannot be predicted, why are signs emphasized at all? The answer lies in preparedness rather than prediction. Signs do not tell people when to stop living. They tell them when to stop assuming continuity. They interrupt the illusion that tomorrow must resemble today. This is why anticipation increases not when a date is named, but when patterns converge. Modern culture struggles with this tension. It prefers either total control or complete dismissal. Either everything must be predictable or nothing should be taken seriously. Ancient frameworks allowed for something in between. Expectation without timetable. That middle ground is uncomfortable. It requires sustained awareness without release, attention without resolution. Yet history shows that major shifts are often preceded by precisely this atmosphere, where the sense of approach grows stronger even as clarity remains withheld. Revisiting the phrase about not knowing the time reframes it as a warning against false confidence, not against watchfulness. It does not deny that moments can be discerned as significant. It denies the authority to domesticate them into schedules. When people insist on knowing exact timing, disappointment follows. When people abandon awareness altogether, surprise replaces responsibility. The phrase resists both extremes. What makes the present moment feel different is how often this tension is being discussed, not in isolation, but alongside concrete preparation, visible alignment, and rising global unease. The language of waiting has shifted. It is no longer passive. It is alert. People sense movement without direction, approach without announcement. That sensation does not require agreement to be felt. It exists beneath belief, ideology, and culture. The danger is not that people will expect too much. The greater danger is that they will expect nothing at all. History does not announce itself with certainty. It accumulates pressure until action becomes unavoidable. Revisiting the idea of not knowing the day or the hour restores its original weight. It was never meant to quiet conversation. It was meant to sharpen perception. Not to remove urgency, but to prevent false control. In moments like these, the question is not whether timing can be known. The question is whether awareness is being maintained. Because when decisive moments arrive, they rarely ask whether people were certain. They only reveal whether people were watching. What makes this moment feel heavier is not confined to one land or one tradition. The sense of movement extends outward, appearing in places that seem disconnected at first glance, yet together form a widening pattern. Events that once belonged to separate categories are now spoken of in the same breath. Natural shifts, political realignments, and military posturing no longer feel isolated. They begin to echo one another, as though different systems are responding to the same unseen pressure. Environmental changes draw attention first because they appear indifferent to human intention. Rivers recede, climates behave unpredictably, and regions long considered stable experience disruption. These shifts do not announce meaning, yet they unsettle confidence. When vital waterways diminish, the impact is not symbolic. It affects trade, food, migration, and stability. What was once dependable becomes fragile, and fragility breeds tension. The land itself begins to feel less cooperative, less predictable, as though the ground is no longer offering the same assurance it once did. At the same time, geopolitical structures show signs of consolidation rather than fragmentation. Alliances form not around shared values, but shared necessity. Numbers matter. Scale matters. When military forces are discussed in unprecedented size, attention shifts from intent to capacity. History shows that capability often shapes outcome long before ideology does. Large formations do not emerge overnight. They require planning, coordination, and sustained agreement. Their existence alone alters calculations, even if they never move. What is striking is how these developments coincide rather than collide. Environmental stress increases pressure on nations. Pressure accelerates cooperation. Cooperation amplifies power. Power demands positioning. Each step feeds the next. No single decision appears catastrophic, yet together they form momentum. Momentum is rarely noticed until it becomes difficult to stop. By then, direction has often already been set. Global communication amplifies this effect. Information travels faster than reflection. Events are witnessed in real time, creating a shared awareness of instability. This constant exposure reshapes perception. The world begins to feel smaller, more volatile, less forgiving of error. Crises no longer remain local. They ripple outward, influencing markets, politics, and public sentiment almost instantly. In such an environment, escalation does not require intent. It requires miscalculation. What troubles observers is not the certainty of conflict, but the density of alignment. Too many systems appear strained simultaneously. Too many shifts are occurring without clear resolution. When stress accumulates across unrelated domains, it suggests a deeper convergence at work. History rarely changes direction through a single event. It turns through accumulation, through the quiet stacking of conditions that eventually make one outcome more likely than others. From receding rivers to expanding armies, the echoes grow louder. They do not shout, they persist. Each development reinforces the sense that the world is moving toward a narrowing corridor, where choices become fewer and consequences sharper. Whether this momentum leads to confrontation or collapse remains unknown. What is clear is that stillness is no longer the defining feature of the age. In moments like this, attention matters more than interpretation. Patterns do not demand belief to exist. They only require recognition. And as global echoes continue to overlap, the question shifts again. Not whether something is coming, but whether the world is prepared for the weight of what has already begun to move. As all these threads come together, one truth becomes difficult to avoid. What is unfolding does not resemble chaos, nor does it feel accidental. It carries the weight of preparation rather than surprise. Signals are being sent, conditions are being shaped, and attention is being drawn without a single definitive announcement. The absence of clarity is not a flaw. It is part of the pattern. Throughout history, moments of genuine transition have rarely arrived with full explanation. They have arrived with pressure, alignment, and a growing sense that something has already shifted beneath the surface. What makes this moment especially unsettling is the balance between action and silence. Public gestures are made, yet meanings are left undefined. Ancient sounds are amplified, yet modern explanations remain cautious. Preparation advances, yet fulfillment is not declared. This combination creates a tension that refuses to resolve. It invites observation rather than conclusion. It leaves space for awareness without certainty, and for responsibility without prediction. The question is no longer whether something is being summoned, but whether those watching are willing to acknowledge the summons without demanding immediate answers. Silence, in this context, is not absence. It is restraint. It allows room for reflection, for recognition, and for personal reckoning. When everything is explained, nothing is weighed. But when meaning is withheld, attention deepens. Each observer is left to confront the pattern on their own terms, without being pushed toward a single interpretation. That freedom is uncomfortable, yet it is deliberate. It shifts the burden from information to awareness. This is where the story pauses, not because it has ended, but because it has reached a threshold. Beyond this point, interpretation becomes personal. The signals have been shown, the alignments have been noted, the preparations have been observed. What remains is response, not panic, not speculation, but attentiveness. History favors those who notice before they understand. If you have followed this journey to the end, take a moment to like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what comes next. Your engagement helps this conversation reach others who are also searching for clarity in uncertain times. Thank you for watching, for thinking, and for staying present in a moment that demands more than passive observation. Whatever unfolds next, awareness will always matter more than certainty, and staying alert may be the most important response of all.
Working on this script felt like piecing together a massive, unseen puzzle that is suddenly coming to life. While investigating this event, I was struck by how this so far isn't just a sound, it's a disruption of the mundane. Scoring through historical records and tracking celestial alignments reveal a pattern that transcends simple coincidence. It's not about predicting the end, but about recognizing the now. The research phase was intense, sifting through thousands of pages of theological texts and comparing them with modern geopolitical shifts to see where they collide. This project taught me that history isn't just behind us. It's often folding right over our present if these connections make you stop and think. Please hit that like button and share your perspective below. Subscribe to stay with us as we continue to decode these signals of our time.